Let's talk Tanya for the 27th of Iyar. In yesterday's Tanya, we explained that the Shechinah is the package of divine energy which is intended for all of creation, and from which ultimately every single creation receives its unique and individual energy. And we asked, just like it is by the human being, that also there's a package of energy that emanates from the soul and enters the brain. What is the analog by God? What is God's brain that hosts the Shechinah, that hosts all this energy that emanates from the essence of God and which is intended for all of creation? So what is God's brain? You might guess that by yourself. God's brain is the Torah. The Torah is God's wisdom. And yes, God's wisdom, the Torah, is the garment into which the Shechinah enters. And through the Torah, everything in creation receives its energy, which, by the way, gives us a new understanding of what we mean when we say that the Torah is the source of everything. The Torah is the architect of creation, because the Shechinah, which contains the energy for everything, enters the Torah. The Torah is the garment, and everything ultimately receives the energy that it receives through the Torah. Why is the Torah necessary? Why can't we receive our energy directly from the Shechinah? And the answer is that the Shechinah is like the sun. Imagine looking into the sun, or imagine saying, I'm a little cold, I want to warm myself up, so I go right near the sun. We can't tolerate the Shechinah. The Shechinah is way too intense. The energy there is way too intense that we can't handle it. So therefore, the Shechinah has to enter the Torah, the brain, and through the garment of the Torah, everything can receive its energy. But one second. We're saying we can't tolerate the Torah, we can't tolerate the Shechinah, because if the Shechinah were to be revealed to us, we would evaporate, we'd lose our existence. Why isn't that true about the Torah? Why is the Torah able to tolerate and handle the incredible light and energy of the Shechinah? So Alter Rebbe explains the reason is because the Torah essentially is actually higher than the Shechinah. As we mentioned yesterday, the Shechinah is Malchus of Atzilus, which is the lowest level of the world of Atzilus, whereas the Torah is Chochmah of Atzilus, is God's wisdom, which is a lot higher than Malchus of Atzilus. So the Torah is higher than Malchus of Atzilus, which is why the Torah can handle the Shechinah, because the Torah is higher than the Shechinah. But you might realize we're going in circles over here. If the Torah is higher than the Shechinah, then how can the Torah be the garment? How can we tolerate the Torah? If we can't handle the Shechinah and the Torah is higher than the Shechinah, how can we handle studying Torah? And here the Alter Rebbe gives us a very deep understanding of Torah. In Torah, God squeezed himself. God squeezed his own wisdom, which, by the way, God's wisdom is one with himself. So ultimately, God squeezed himself into our language, into concepts and ideas that we can understand, we can relate to, and we can tolerate it. Here we have God's wisdom, which, as we mentioned, essentially is God himself. But what are we reading in the Torah? We're reading about, mixing wool and linen. We're reading about milk and meat. We're reading about an ox that gores a cow. We're reading a story about some ancient shepherd or some battle that was waged somewhere, or someone who was digging wells. To us, it seems like mundane stories. This is our language. It doesn't seem too bright for us to be able to handle. But really, essentially, what is it? It is God's infinite wisdom. It is God himself. So Torah is this very interesting entity. It is the highest of the high, but it enters our reality in a way that we can relate to it. And therefore, the Torah is able to be a garment wherein the Shechinah can enter. And again, the Torah is not overly impressed by the Shechinah, because the Torah is higher than the Shechinah. And through the Torah, the Shechinah then is able to give life and definition and existence to everything over here in creation. In tomorrow's Tanya, we will unpack this idea a little further and try to have a better understanding of what it means that the Shechinah enters the garment of the Torah and through that energizes all of creation.